If you are listening to this prayer, and you have been carrying pain from past abuse, silent trauma, emotional wounds, or spiritual oppression that refuses to let you rest, this is not an accident. This prayer is a divine interruption sent to pull you out of darkness and break every witchcraft grip attached to your past. There are wounds that time does not heal, memories that refuse to stay buried, and pain that resurfaces without warning, leaving the soul exhausted and confused. Many people do not realize that past abuse often opens spiritual doors that allow witchcraft trauma, emotional bondage, and invisible chains to attach themselves to the heart and mind. This prayer is not just about remembering what happened. It is about confronting what stayed behind after the abuse, the fear, the shame, the silence, the spiritual residue, and the unseen forces feeding on that pain. Today we rise in spiritual authority to confront what has been hiding behind your healing process. Abuse does not end when the moment passes. It lingers in thoughts, emotions, reactions, and dreams. And when witchcraft trauma is involved, the wound often deepens beyond the physical or emotional realm. Some have prayed for peace but still feel unrest, prayed for joy but still feel heaviness, prayed for healing but still feel trapped. This is because certain traumas are spiritually reinforced, strengthened by darkness that resists your restoration. This prayer stands as a line drawn in the spirit, declaring that your past will no longer control your present or dictate your future. Today we engage in spiritual warfare, not with fear, but with divine authority. We confront every witchcraft mark left behind by abuse, every emotional scar that became a spiritual entry point, every manipulation that tried to redefine your identity. This prayer is for those who feel broken but still believe, wounded but still praying, tired but still holding on. You are not weak for feeling this pain, and you are not defeated for still struggling. You are here because healing is now demanding a spiritual response. Many people survive abuse but never fully recover because the trauma is not just emotional, it is spiritual. Witchcraft trauma thrives in secrecy, fear, silence, and self-blame, feeding on unresolved pain and unspoken wounds. But darkness loses its power when light confronts it directly. This prayer is designed to uproot every hidden spiritual residue of abuse, cleanse the soul from contamination, and restore what was stolen from you piece by piece. This is not surface healing, this is deep deliverance. As you listen and pray along, know that this moment is sacred. You are not revisiting your pain to suffer again. You are revisiting it to reclaim your freedom. Every word spoken in this prayer is a declaration that abuse will not have the final word, trauma will not define your identity, and witchcraft will not control your destiny. Healing is not just possible, it is happening now, as spiritual chains are being confronted, broken, and replaced with peace, strength, and restoration. I come before you, Lord, acknowledging that past abuse left wounds deeper than words and scars that time alone could not heal, and I ask you to enter every memory where pain still lives, and bring divine order where chaos once ruled, cleansing my heart from fear, shame, confusion, and emotional residue that tries to resurface, and restoring my soul with truth, peace, and strength that no darkness can corrupt. Father, I lift every moment of abuse that became a doorway for spiritual oppression, and I ask that you close every open gate created through trauma, manipulation, fear, or silence, sealing my spirit with your presence and removing every invisible attachment that has been feeding on my pain and hindering my healing journey. I pray against every witchcraft imprint connected to past abuse, every spiritual mark left by emotional harm, psychological control, or repeated trauma. And I command that these influences lose their power over my thoughts, emotions, reactions, and identity as I stand under divine authority and protection. Lord, teach my heart to separate my true identity from what was done to me, remove the lies planted through abuse that told me I was weak, unworthy, or broken, and replace them with your truth that declares I am chosen, protected, restored, and strengthened through you. I ask for healing in the deepest places of my mind, where fear learned to live, where trust was damaged, and where peace was interrupted. And I invite your light to expose every hidden corner where darkness tried to hide and remain unchallenged. Father, uproot every spiritual stronghold that grew from repeated pain, remove emotional patterns formed through survival mode, and reprogram my spirit to respond from healing instead of fear, from wisdom instead of defense, and from peace instead of anxiety. I pray for restoration of my emotional strength, asking you to return what abuse attempted to steal, including confidence, clarity, joy, stability, and hope, and to rebuild my inner foundation on truth instead of trauma and faith instead of fear. Lord, I renounce every spiritual tie formed through abuse, whether through control, intimidation, manipulation, or fear. And I ask that every unhealthy soul connection be severed, so that my spirit can breathe freely without influence from past harm. I pray for discernment to recognize when old wounds attempt to speak into my present decisions, and for wisdom to respond with healing instead of reacting from unresolved pain, allowing your guidance to lead me forward in wholeness. Father, remove every spirit of heaviness that settled during seasons of abuse, lift the weight that presses on my emotions, and restore a spirit of joy, peace, and soundness that aligns with your divine purpose for my life. I ask for cleansing of my subconscious, where trauma stored memories, emotions, and responses without my consent, and I invite your presence to rewrite these spaces with safety, truth, and calm that supports lasting healing. Lord, protect my sleep, my thoughts, and my emotions from spiritual harassment connected to past abuse, and place a shield around my mind that prevents old wounds from resurfacing without authority or purpose. I pray for the healing of trust within my heart, asking you to teach me how to trust wisely without fear, and how to love without reopening wounds, guiding me into healthy connections that support growth instead of triggering pain. Father, release me from cycles of emotional exhaustion caused by unresolved trauma, restore my strength daily, and teach my spirit how to rest without guilt, fear, or hypervigilance. I ask for healing from shame that abuse planted deep within me, removing false responsibility for what was done to me, and replacing it with truth, dignity, and self-respect rooted in your love, Lord. Strengthen my spiritual boundaries so that nothing from my past can cross into my present without permission, and train my spirit to stand firm when confronted by memories, emotions, or triggers that attempt to destabilize me. I pray for clarity of mind where confusion once lived, peace where chaos dominated, and order where trauma disrupted my emotional balance, aligning every part of my being with your divine structure. Father, restore my voice where abuse silenced me. Teach me how to speak with wisdom, confidence, and authority, and remove fear that tries to keep me quiet when truth needs to be expressed. I ask for healing from emotional numbness developed as a survival mechanism. Soften my heart where it learned to shut down, and teach me how to feel safely without fear of being overwhelmed again. Lord, I surrender my healing process to you, completely asking you to guide each step with patience, wisdom, and divine timing, strengthening me daily as you continue uprooting trauma and restoring my soul layer by layer. Father, I ask you to enter the places where my emotions learn to brace for harm and teach them how to rest again, dismantling every internal alarm system created by abuse and replacing it with assurance, safety, and calm rooted in your presence. Lord, I pray for healing of my identity where abuse tried to rename me through pain labels and false narratives, and I ask that every distorted self-image formed through trauma be erased and replaced with the truth of who you created me to be. I stand against every spirit of intimidation that followed me from abusive seasons, every fear that learned my voice and posture, and I ask you to restore confidence, courage, and inner authority that allows me to walk without shrinking. Father, heal my reactions that were shaped by survival rather than peace, retraining my responses to align with wisdom, clarity, and emotional stability, instead of defense or withdrawal. I ask you to cleanse my spiritual atmosphere from residue left by abusive environments, removing heaviness, tension, and confusion that lingered long after the situation ended, and restoring clarity, freedom, and peace. Lord, touch my nervous system where trauma stored stress, shock, and alertness. Calm every overworked emotional response, and teach my body how to feel safe again without constant tension. I pray for restoration of my decision-making ability where abuse caused doubt, hesitation, or fear of mistakes, and I ask that wisdom, confidence, and discernment guide my choices moving forward. Father, break every cycle of self-blame that abuse planted within me, removing guilt that was never mine to carry, and replacing it with truth, compassion, and self-forgiveness. I ask for healing from emotional fragmentation, where parts of my heart shut down to survive. Bring unity, wholeness, and reintegration, so that no part of me remains frozen in past pain. Lord, remove fear associated with authority voices or confrontation that developed during abuse, and restore my ability to stand firm, speak clearly, and assert boundaries without fear. I pray for freedom from intrusive memories, thoughts, or images connected to abuse, asking that my mind be guarded by peace and regulated by your truth rather than replayed pain. Father, I surrender the anger, resentment, and confusion that formed as a response to abuse, not suppressing them, but allowing you to heal and redirect these emotions into clarity, strength, and wisdom. I ask you to restore emotional balance where trauma caused extremes of numbness or overwhelm, teaching my heart how to feel deeply without losing stability. Lord, heal the connection between my mind and spirit where abuse caused disassociation or internal separation, restoring harmony, alignment, and inner awareness. I pray for cleansing of fear-based expectations that abuse created, removing anticipation of harm and replacing it with expectation of safety, growth, and goodness. Father, restore my sense of worth that was damaged through mistreatment, neglect, or manipulation, anchoring my value in your truth rather than my past experiences. I ask for healing from isolation, learned during abusive seasons, teaching me how to engage with others without fear of harm, abandonment, or betrayal. Lord, strengthen my emotional resilience without hardening my heart, allowing me to remain open, loving, and wise without reopening wounds. I pray for healing of trust toward myself, where abuse caused self-doubt, confusion, or second-guessing, restoring confidence in my discernment and inner guidance. Father, continue reshaping my inner world daily as you dismantle trauma patterns, replace survival habits, and rebuild my soul on peace, truth, and strength that supports lasting healing. Father, I ask you to heal the places where my voice was dismissed, ignored, or punished, restoring confidence in my expression, and removing fear that still tries to silence me when I need to speak truth and advocate for myself. Lord, I pray for healing from internalized fear learned during abusive moments, fear that expects danger even in safe spaces, and I ask you to retrain my heart to recognize peace without suspicion. I ask you to heal my emotional memory, where pain was stored repeatedly, cleansing each layer gently and completely, so that my past no longer hijacks my present reactions. Father, restore my sense of safety in relationships, teaching my spirit how to recognize healthy patterns and discern warning signs without living in constant alertness or distrust. Lord, remove every pattern of people-pleasing that developed as a survival response to abuse and restore healthy boundaries rooted in wisdom, strength, and self-respect. I pray for healing from emotional confusion caused by mixed messages, manipulation, or control, bringing clarity to my perceptions and stability to my understanding of truth. Father, touch the places where grief was suppressed because survival demanded strength, allowing me to release sorrow safely and be healed without being overwhelmed. Lord, heal the internal conflict created when love and pain existed together, restoring clarity so my heart no longer confuses harm with care or control with affection. I ask you to restore my sense of time where trauma caused me to feel stuck behind or disconnected, aligning my inner world with the present moment and renewed hope. Father, heal my expectations of myself where abuse caused perfectionism, harsh self-judgment, or fear of failure, replacing these patterns with grace, patience, and growth. Lord, remove fear attached to vulnerability, teaching me that openness does not equal danger, and that wisdom can coexist with emotional honesty. I pray for restoration of joy that was interrupted by long seasons of pain, allowing laughter, peace, and lightness to return without guilt or fear. Father, cleanse my inner dialogue where abuse planted harsh voices, criticism, or condemnation, replacing them with truth, compassion, and encouragement. Lord, heal my emotional endurance where trauma caused burnout, exhaustion, or shutdown, restoring sustainable strength that does not rely on constant survival mode. I ask you to heal the connection between my heart and hope, restoring belief in goodness, opportunities, and future peace without fear of disappointment. Father, remove lingering confusion about love, trust, and connection, teaching my spirit to recognize healthy love without suspicion or self-abandonment. Lord, heal my sense of personal space where boundaries were violated, restoring ownership of my body, emotions, and decisions with confidence and clarity. I pray for freedom from emotional flashbacks that pull me into past pain, unexpectedly grounding my spirit in peace and present safety. Father, strengthen my ability to receive care, kindness, and support without suspicion, resistance, or withdrawal, teaching my heart that it is safe to be helped. Lord, continue guiding my healing with wisdom, patience, and consistency as you dismantle trauma responses, restore emotional balance, and rebuild my inner life on peace, truth, and stability. Father, I stand on your promise in Psalm 34 verse 18 that you are close to the brokenhearted and you save those who are crushed in spirit. And I ask you now to draw near to every wounded place within me, bringing comfort where pain once lived, and restoration where abuse tried to destroy my sense of worth. Lord, according to Isaiah 61 verse 1, you bind up the brokenhearted and proclaim freedom for the captive. So I ask you to bind every fractured part of my soul and release me completely from every spiritual captivity that formed through abuse and witchcraft trauma. I receive the truth of Psalm 147 verse 3, that you heal the brokenhearted and bind up their wounds, and I ask you to perform this healing deeply, thoroughly, and permanently in every area of my heart, mind, and spirit. Father, your word in 2 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 4 declares that the weapons of our warfare are mighty through you for pulling down strongholds. So I ask that every stronghold formed by trauma, fear, manipulation, or witchcraft be completely dismantled by your power, Lord. I hold on to Romans 8 verse 1, which declares, there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ. And I ask you to remove every trace of shame, guilt, and false blame that abuse planted within me, replacing it with freedom and truth. According to Isaiah 54 verse 17, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, and I declare that every weapon of emotional abuse, spiritual manipulation, and witchcraft oppression has failed and will never rise again in my life. Father, I receive Psalm 91 verses 1 and 2, declaring that I dwell under your shadow, and that you are my refuge and fortress. And I ask you to surround me with divine protection as you complete this work of healing and restoration. Lord, your word in John 8 verse 36 declares that whom the Son sets free is free indeed, and I step fully into this freedom, releasing every chain of trauma, fear, and spiritual bondage that tried to remain attached to my past. I stand on Joel 2 verse 25, where you promise to restore the years that were eaten, and I ask you to restore every season stolen by abuse, including joy, peace, confidence, clarity, and hope for the future, Father. According to Proverbs 4, verse 23, you guard my heart because everything flows from it, and I ask you to guard my heart now with peace, wisdom, and truth. As you complete this healing work, Lord, I receive the promise of Philippians 4, verse 7, that your peace guards my heart and mind. And I ask that this peace now settles deeply within me, replacing anxiety, fear, and unrest with calm and stability. Your word in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 declares that you have not given me a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And I receive this soundness as you heal every trauma-affected area of my thinking, Father. I claim Psalm 30, verse 2, which declares that you healed me, and I thank you in advance for complete healing that touches my emotions, memories, reactions, and spiritual foundation. Lord, I trust Lamentations chapter 3, verses 31 through 33, which remind me that you do not willingly bring grief, but show compassion. And I ask you to pour out compassion over every part of my healing journey. According to Isaiah 41, verse 10, you strengthen and uphold me with your righteous hand, and I ask you to continue holding me steady as you finalize this restoration. Father, I embrace Romans 15, verse 13, which declares that you fill me with joy and peace as I trust in you, and I receive renewed hope that overflows by your power, Lord. I receive Ezekiel 36, verse 26, where you promise a new heart and a new spirit. And I ask you to replace every hardened, wounded, or guarded place within me with tenderness and life I stand on. Psalm 125, verse 1, declaring that those who trust in you cannot be shaken. And I receive stability, strength, and emotional security that cannot be moved by past pain. Father, I hold on to Revelation 12, verse 11, that declares victory through the blood. And I proclaim victory over every residue of abuse, trauma, and witchcraft influence. I seal this prayer in faith, trusting that you who began this healing work will complete it. And I receive full restoration, peace, and freedom in Jesus' name. Amen.